Hello, my name is Joseph Rettinger, and I want to welcome you to my presentation on the Internet of Things. The objective of my video is to help you understand what the Internet of Things is, since it's a relatively new term, and also to explain how it's going to be important moving forward. So basically, the Internet of Things can be explained as a networking of physical objects. Any device, anytime, anywhere will all be able to communicate with one another in a way that's never been done before. To go into more detail, the Internet of Things is a new level of networking between physical objects. It brings the Internet as we know it to physical things. These connected devices will result in more tailored products which are better for the consumer. Now, you might be asking, how does it work? Well, the physical objects, will all be embedded with electronics, software, and sensors. Using these things, the objects will be able to communicate using either wireless or Bluetooth signaling with one another, and also a central hub. So each of these objects is going to be assigned a specific IP address, and to be more specific, it's going to be the version 6 of the IP address, because that's going to be necessary to accommodate the billions of addresses that will eventually be required. Using this will allow for interoperation between the physical objects and the existing internet structure. They'll be able to signal back and forth to each other and transfer data that can be used. So since the inception of the Internet of Things, there has been a massive progression. The modern day uses are still minimal, mainly being used for positioning and tracking of packages, but in the future, the uses are expected to be almost universal and be integrated in unprecedented levels. Imagine being at a bar or a concert or someplace that's crowded. Using the Internet of Things, you will be able to find your friends in a crowd or potentially at a concert. The speakers will be able to auto adjust to the right volume for the crowd. These are just a few examples of real world applications. The Internet of Things is going to be integrated into every aspect of our lives. It's going to bring to life the vision of a smart house. Each household appliance will be able to one day communicate with each other. Imagine living in a world where your alarm clock can signal to your coffee maker to start brewing coffee when the alarm goes off. Automated activities will take the place of things that have previously been done manually. In the private sector, businesses will be able to go at faster speeds and improve how they are more in tune and responsive to the real needs of customers. Marketers will be able to target consumers with specific interests, and changes can be made in production lines in real time instead of having to look back on them. In the medical field, the most important use of the Internet of Things comes in remote health monitoring. Doctors could potentially be able to check on a patient by merely checking their smartphone instead of having the patient have to come in. This is an example of how the Internet of Things will be cost effective for chronic patients, because it's much cheaper and easier to keep tabs on patients or even elderly people using it than by traditional means. All the biggest technological companies in the world have invested in developing this technology, from Microsoft to Cisco to IBM to Intel, all of the major players are somehow involved. The global impact of the Internet of Things could potentially save lives and the environment. With the Internet of Things, the objects, will be able to monitor and react to environmental changes quickly, and also it can be used that these things will be able to provide access of something important like severe weather warnings to people more quickly. Since its inception in 2009, the growth rate of the Internet of Things has been exponential. Estimates predict that as many as 50 billion connected devices can exist by 2020, compared to the roughly 18 billion we have now and the mere 10 billion that were in 2010. So since 2011, almost $10 billion has been invested to acquire those Internet of Things suppliers by the major technology companies discussed earlier. And most of that money has been in the last few years alone. Now, it's clear why they would invest that much when it's made known that the estimated market for the Internet of Things is going to be valued closely to $7 trillion by 2020. Security is always an important issue, and especially in this new era of Internet hackers, so that's a major concern. Experts worry that security procedures aren't being developed enough or given enough thought yet. So that's one major concern going forward with the Internet of Things. Some people are always going to oppose new things and new technology, and that's just how the world works. Another legitimate concern about the Internet of Things is that it will do away with privacy as we know it. Having everything be monitored, nothing will be private anymore, and that's another thing that must be addressed first before the Internet of Things can take off. So through this video, I hope to have given you an introduction into what the Internet of Things is and a basic idea of how it's predicted to factor into the world in the future. In conclusion, I just want to reiterate that the Internet of Things allows for the connectivity of physical objects anytime, anywhere, with anything. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you learned something from it. Until next time, I'm Joseph Rettinger.